Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Bill Wild hitting his back up. I'm just uploading a video here to YouTube because I had trouble, with the podcast the other day, so we're gonna try YouTube instead. I'm just gonna briefly talk about my top wide receivers and all my tight ends in here as well to get both in there at the same time. So, start with the wide receivers. Number one, obviously, is Calvin Johnson. I'm not afraid of the Madden curse at all, as long as Matthew Stafford stays healthy. And really, we've seen Calvin do this without Stafford either. He's put up big numbers with other quarterbacks, but clearly with Stafford, this offense is going to be very high flying, and Calvin's going to be a major focal point, and I don't expect that to change even with the Madden curse. So, number two is Larry Fitzgerald. It seems whoever the quarterback is of Arizona, Fitzgerald's just going to go and make plays. And so, he'll go out, he'll put up big numbers. And he seemed to do a lot better with John Skelton last season. And it seems like Skelton right now is the favorite to be the starting quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals. So that's why I really like Fitzgerald right now. Third, I like AJ Green. I think AJ could have a really big season. With all the weapons the Bengals have brought in, it'll give AJ Green a chance to have more of an open field, and I think Dalton's gonna target him a lot, and so I think he's gonna get a lot of opportunities to put up some big numbers. So number four, I like Wes Welker. Especially in the PPR league, this guy with Tom Brady throwing him the ball, he's gonna get a lot of opportunities still, even with Brandon Lloyd in the mix. I think Welker will still get his targets. And of course, the fact this is a contract year for him, he's playing under his franchise tender. So, he's I would think he's going to get every opportunity to, you know, try to get the best contract he can, so to speak, by his play on the field. So I think he's going to be have another nice season and have a lot of opportunities to catch a lot of balls. Number five, I like Roddy White of the Falcons. Uh, he's still Matt Ryan's go-to guy. He was the most targeted wide receiver last season. Caught 100 passes again last season for almost 1,300 yards. And I think the Falcons' offense is going to throw a lot more than they have in the past. And there's a chance they could be going no huddle too. And so when Matt Ryan's looking for a bailout option, he's going to go to Roddy White. So number six, I like Hakeem Nicks. Even with him being injured, uh, I think he's only going to miss most of training camp. I think he'll be back in plenty of time before the Week 1 game against the Cowboys, and he's still the number one receiver on the Giants offense. And this is a Giants team that's still going to throw a lot. So as long as Nicks can stay healthy once the season starts, I think he'll be another solid option and should continue to be a stud in fantasy land. Seven, I like Greg Jennings. He's still Aaron Rodgers' go-to guy. He did miss a couple games last season due to injury, but he'll be back, and I think he'll continue to put up solid numbers in this Packers offense. And is a guy you could probably get in the third round. So you're starting to get into pretty decent value. Again, wide receivers just so deep this season that if you miss out on a guy like Calvin Johnson or Larry Fitzgerald, it's okay to wait on your starting receiver until maybe like the third or the fourth round. Because when you get to that fourth round, I've been seeing a lot of good wide receivers still on the board. So don't panic if you don't get one of the top guys. But Jennings is another guy that could still be there when you get to the third round. And he's another guy that you could feel safe starting as your top receiver, being the top guy on such a pass-heavy offense. Number eight, I like my boy Julio Jones. I think he's primed for a breakout season. With Roddy White on the opposite side and with Tony Gonzalez in the middle, and with how much the Falcons are possibly going to throw it, Julio's probably going to be seeing a lot of single coverage, and with his speed, I think he's going to get. I think he's going to be open a good bit and could see a lot of passes come his way. So, this is a guy that could take a short pass and take it about 80 yards to the house. That's how fast and just how athletic Julio Jones is. We saw it at Alabama. We saw it last season in his rookie season with the Falcons. So, I mean, just look at that. Just look at his first touchdown against the Colts in Week 9. That just shows the speed he has. So, I think he's very primed for a breakout season. Then I like Andre Johnson. I'm only low because he's got the injuries. He's over 30. But, when healthy, he still is one of the elite receivers in this league. When they do decide, when they do throw it, because this is a run-first team with Foster and Tate. But when they do throw it, Andre is still the main guy there, and Matt Schaub is going to be back from Liz Frank injury, so he, those two will try to get together again. And Schaub's a guy you can get very late if you're into things like that, like those combos. And Andre could be a guy you could get in the third round. I've seen him go in the second, but there have been drafts where he's fallen to the third as well. So, but if you want to take the risk on him in the second, go ahead. And rounding out my top 10, I like Brandon Marshall. We've seen what Marshall has done with Cutler in Denver, and now, of course, he's reunited with Cutler in Chicago. Cutler's had 1,000-yard or 100-catch season before with Cutler in Denver. Now they're together in Chicago. They also drafted Alshon Jeffrey, so you're not going to be able to focus completely on Marshall, but I think Marshall obviously will be the main guy there. And, he's going to get a lot of opportunities. And, the threat of Matt Forte there as well, if Forte does play and is able to come back. Marshall, it could give Marshall some room to work with, and he'll be a very solid option. I think another strong season is in line for Brandon Marshall. I think he certainly improves on the touchdown department for sure. He's only had 9 touchdowns the past 2 seasons combined, and he's got a great chance to equal that at least, if not surpass it, this coming season with Cutler. Number 11, I like Steve Smith of the Panthers. This was a guy that's been left for dead before last season, but that was really mainly due to poor quarterback play. Guys like Jake Delhomme has helped Steve Smith, obviously, but guys like Matt Moore and Jimmy Clausen. It was those two guys really were the reason why Steve Smith had a terrible 2010. But thanks to Cam Newton's emergence and him able to throw the deep ball and do everything, Steve Smith was revitalized last season and has now once again become one of the best receivers in the game. And he played all 16 games last season, did Smith, so he's healthy, he's ready to go. And I think this Panthers team is a team that's going to compete in the NFC South. So I think the Newton-Smith combo continues to work, and I think Smith continues to put up solid numbers. And for being the top 5 receiver last year, this is a guy you can get in the 4th round. That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying wide receiver is so deep that you can afford to wait on your receiver this year. And so like when you can get a guy like Steve Smith, that is great value, and I'd have no problem putting Smith in as my number 1 receiver. So, and then number 12 on my list is going to be Victor Cruz. Again, going back to what I said about Knicks, this is a guy is a team that's very pass happy, and Cruz showed how strong of a receiver he can be. Uh, he's playing with a quarterback that threw for almost 5,000 yards last season. So, that Cruz will just continue to put up strong numbers. Uh, he's another guy you can get in around the third or fourth round, so another solid option there. So those are my top wide receivers, and now I'm going to run through my tight ends here. And number one on my list is going to be Rob Gronkowski. No surprise, Gronkowski, 17 touchdowns last season, 1,300 plus receiving yards. He's just going to continue to put up numbers in this offense with Tom Brady throwing it to him. So, there's really not much to say about Rob Gronkowski. To me, he's the best tight end right now. And then right behind him is Jimmy Graham. 90 catches last season. Drew Brees, is back. For those that didn't see the news again, Brees has his contract, 5 years, $100 million. So he'll be locked in, ready to go. And they're going to continue to get it to Graham. So easily those are the top two, Graham and Gronkowski and Graham. Then I like Antonio Gates at 3. He's had his injury problems, but obviously when healthy and with all the talks, he's looking great in camp. He really is the go-to guy for Phillip Rivers in this offense, especially now with Vincent Jackson gone. I know they brought in Robert Meacham, but Meacham obviously isn't the type of receiver that Vincent Jackson is. But in all honesty, again, the top guy is Antonio Gates in this offense. Rivers will continue to go to him. Let's remember, if you remember 2 seasons ago, Gates only played 10 games. He still was the number one receiver. He had 10 touchdowns, I think, in those 10 games. But I'm not saying he was either number 1 or number 2 scoring for the entire season, and that was with missing 6 games. So, with Gates, if he's healthy, he's going to put up real strong numbers for you. Then I like Jason Witten at number 4. In this offense with Jason Garrett, Dallas is going to throw it, and one of Tony Romo's best friends is Jason Witten. He's one of the most trustworthy tight ends in the NFL. He's constantly making catches. He had almost 1,000 yards last season. Only had 5 touchdowns, but I think that's a number that can certainly bump up. And again, Romo's going to continue to look his way, so I still feel comfortable with Jason Witten. Then I like Vernon Davis at number 5. Davis, another of those trustworthy tight ends by their quarterback. This time I'm talking Alex Smith. And we saw the game Davis put up against the Saints. The 40 in the playoffs. The 49ers played the game they had to, and that was Smith was able to go toe-to-toe with Drew Brees, and when it came down to it, Smith looked Vernon Davis's way, and Davis came up huge, and really bailed out, really helped out Smith a lot. So, then at 6 I put Aaron Hernandez. Excuse me. It just shows the bevy of weapons that New England has. Hernandez is a guy that you could play in line, you could split out wide, you can even put it running back, as we saw in the playoffs. I do think he might lose a few targets to Brandon Lloyd, but I still think there's going to be a lot of targets available for all involved. And I still think Hernandez gets a good bit of targets. And, again, he's a guy that is just so versatile and can do so much with the ball. So, it seems like he'll be getting points in every which way with Hernandez. 7 on my list is Brent Selleck of the Eagles. You know, and I actually considered putting Selleck higher. Uh, we know last season Selleck started off so slow, but I think that was mainly due to Philly still trying to figure out the offensive line. But once they got that settled, you know, as we saw as the season went on, the offensive line really started to gel. Um, and when that happened, Selleck was able to go out and run more passes, or run more routes, I should say, and catch more passes. And he ended up being a top 10 tight end in overall fantasy scoring last season. And I think this year he certainly has top 5 upside because this Eagles offense is going to be very high flying. I think Vic throws a lot, and even with McCoy back there, he's great out of the backfield, so it'll allow them to run even more or throw it even more. And the offensive line, is intact. Yes, Jason Peters is injured, but I think signing Demetrius Bell was a very nice pickup. And he should slot in very nice at left tackle. You got Mathis back, you got Jason Kells, you got Danny Watkins will get more reps now and get a full off season at right guard, and then you have Todd Hermans at right tackle. So I think they're going to throw a lot, and it's going to allow Selleck to be able to go out and run more routes because there's no problems with the line, because the line is, no injury problems. We know who the starting 5 are. You're not going to be jumbling everything. So, I really like Selleck this year. I think he has top 5 upside. Number 8, I went with Jermichael Finley, which is kind of tough, but we know the upside is there, the potential is there. We just have to hope he finally sees it and finally breaks out. It seems like we've been waiting and waiting with Finley to finally live up to the potential. He got his new contract this season. If he can ever just stay consistent, that's my only worry. He'll have big numbers one game and he'll plummet the next. He had 8 touchdowns last season, but he had 3 of them in one game, and that was way back in week 3. So you're talking he only had 5 touchdowns from week 4 on. If he can bump up that production, this guy certainly is a top tight end and another guy that has top 5 upside as well. So then at 9, a guy I really like in PPR leagues as well, because I think he's going to get a lot of targets, is Brandon Pettigrew. He had about 80 catches last season. I think that trend continues, if not more. Again, as I mentioned with Calvin Johnson's offense is going to throw a lot with Stafford at behind center, and another of the main recipients of those throws is going to be Pettigrew. So another guy you can get very late, which is another topic. I mentioned how deep wide receiver is. It goes the same with tight end. If you missed out on the top 2 guys, you can get very good tight ends in the middle to later rounds of the draft, so you can afford to wait, so you don't have to panic if you don't get Gronk or Graham. And my number 10 is another reason for that, and that's Tony Gonzalez. For a guy who a lot of people think is just going to break down, he just continues and continues to produce. I mean, he was the number 4 scoring tight end last season, was Tony Gonzalez, and he's back for one more year with the Falcons. And I mentioned how they're really going to throw it. They look like they're going to open up the offense for Matt Ryan. So, Gonzo's another guy you can get in the middle of the later rounds, and I still feel very good about having. Then my number 11 is Fred Davis. I like this guy. This guy was going to go over 1,000 yards if he didn't have that 4-game suspension last season. And now he's got a rookie quarterback in Robert Griffin III, so I would think Griffin's going to look at Davis a lot, as with him being the tight end like a bailout option. And so, Davis is one nice choice. And then I actually like rookie Colby Fleener too. You know, excuse me. As far as Fleener goes, I think this Colts team is going to have to throw a lot because they're going to be trailing a lot in games, I think. And not only that, but they've got Bruce Arians as their offensive coordinator now. And we all know Bruce Arians, of course, was the former offensive coordinator with the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger, and he's had some pretty good fantasy seasons lately. So, again, I think they're gonna be throwing a lot, and I think Fleener's one of those deep sleepers again that for those looking for deep value at tight end. So, and with that, I think I'm gonna end it here. Again, just wanted to come on, upload this video, get wide receivers and tight ends out of the way, mention those a bit. So, hope you guys enjoyed and hope the video came out well. So, we'll see you next time. Later, folks.